Next thing, baby boomer question number 1 that we'll address is, will Social Security be there for me? And so basically what we're seeing right now is there's 10,000 baby boomers per day. 10,000 baby boomers per day that reach Social Security age. Okay? Now, way back in 1935, when Social Security started, there was actually 40 people working for every 1 retiree. Now, and back in 1935, I'll say if you retired at 65, guess what life expectancy was? 67. So you drew benefits for a few years. Now, right now, today, currently, there's 3 workers for every 1 retiree. In 20 years, there'll be 3 workers for every 2 retirees. And so actuarially, the system is set up to fail at this point in time. So a lot of alarm bells have been sounding with professors, economists, financial planners, and that's a good thing, because 20 years ago, you probably didn't think much about whether Social Security would be around, you depended on it. But what it actually ended up doing is it forced baby boomers to get serious about planning for their own retirement. So a lot more people have built up money in 401k plans, 403b, deferred comps, Roth IRAs, and so forth. So you've started to accumulate on your own and not be so dependent on this one benefit. So the Social Security trustee report, what they're projecting right now, these are the government numbers. This is from the actual Old Age Survivor and Disability Insurance Trust Fund. In 2010, there's $2.6 trillion in the fund. In 2011, they had income of $805 billion, expenditures of $736 billion, for a net increase of $69 billion. So there's $2.677 trillion sitting in the Social Security Trust Fund at this point in time. Now, where that money comes from, there's 155 million people that pay into Social Security, and there's presently 53 million people that draw out of Social Security. 85% of those are retirees, 15% would be considered disabled or other needs. Now, where does the money come from? So out of your paycheck, of course, right? How much of your paycheck goes toward Social Security itself, not Medicare? Does anybody know the answer to that? 6.2%. It's a little bit tricky because last year there was a little bit of a cut, wasn't there? So right now, as you earn income, 6.2% of your paycheck goes into Social Security. And in addition to that, your employer, if you're working for somebody, also puts in 6.2%, right? So that's a total of 12.4% of your income is going to Social Security. Up to a maximum of $113,700 of your paycheck will go towards Social Security. So for people that might be self-employed, they have to pay both halves of Social Security. So they're paying 12.4% of Social Security, up to a maximum of total of $17,396 per year. And then in addition to that, there's a Medicare tax. Medicare ends up being 1.45% of your paycheck, and there's no cap on how much you're paying into Medicare at this point in time. So if you earn $1 million, 1.45% of your check goes into that. In addition to that, in the year 2013, there's an additional 3.8% Medicare tax if you're a single taxpayer making over $200,000 a year, or married filing joint making over $250,000 a year. You have an additional 3.8% tax on your wages, investment income, and so forth. So a couple different, that's the way the money gets there. That's the way that the trust fund is built up. So what they're saying, long-term projections at this point in time, is if you look at between now and 2036, there's enough money going into the system to actually build up. But by the year 2036, either they have to make some major adjustments to the amounts they're paying out, or there's going to be a serious drop in checks to individuals that are receiving Social Security benefits. So that's a little bit scary when you start projecting out looking like this. Now, it's kind of interesting. In the politicians, obviously, you see how functional our current government is and how serious they are about addressing this problem, which they really aren't. And the latest one that I heard when one of the Washington politicians saw this chart and he saw, oh, by 2036, he just said, well, what's the difference? All the old people would be dead by then anyhow. So, problem solved, right? I think he might have been thinking about the physical cliff. But so what are they going to do? You know, what could you do to restore the solvency of the system? Here's some of the reform proposals being studied. First of all, they're talking about increasing the maximum amount of your paycheck that would be paid into Social Security. So it's currently at $113,700. Well, maybe raise that cap so more money goes in per person. Second thing would be to raise the normal retirement age, currently at 66 for those born between 1943 and 1954, and it goes up from there. It's age 67 for those born after 1960. Article in the newspaper was saying today, yeah, you can still let people draw their benefits at 62 if they want to, but full retirement age, we should start bumping that up to 70, because you know, in reality, people live a lot longer than they used to. Another proposal, lower benefits for future retirees. Let's take a vote. How many of you guys like that idea? I didn't think so. And that's a hard one to swallow because there's a lot of people that are dependent on this check for their retirement income. You're promised this benefit, and that benefit better be there. So lowering the benefits is a very difficult thing to do. It's a large percentage of our voting population. And I think at the end of the last year, somebody in our class last night said that he's on the ARP email list or mail list, and he said he kept getting emails saying, oh, look out, you know, they're going to try to take our Social Security cost of living adjustments away from us. So again, you know, a lot of people that will fight that idea. And then reduce cost of living adjustments for retirees, and I could probably see that coming. Yes, sir?
Well, you're saying there to change it to 66, shouldn't you hurry up and retire then?
The question is if they're planning on increasing the age to retirement for full retirement benefits, should you plan on retiring a little bit sooner? The answer to that is the research, the articles are that they would grandfather the group of people in because they don't want to have an abrupt change to the plan. And if you think back to the late 1980s, early 1990s, remember IBM changed their pension plan? And they changed it abruptly. And then this is kind of at the beginning of the internet, and maybe not for IBM employees, but all the retirees, you know, they got together through the internet and they said, this isn't fair, and they started a class action suit. So these days, when corporations change their pension plans, what they do is they do it gradually. They say, okay, if you're over age 50, you can keep our current defined benefit pension plan. If you're between 35 and age 50, you have a choice. You can go with the old plan or you can start a cash balance plan. If you're a new employee, it's cash balance only. You know, you don't have the pension. So that's typically what happens. So I wouldn't stress out about, you know, these number changes anytime too soon.